Welcome to the Fit for Success podcast. Brian Semling is an experienced entrepreneur with over 25 years in business. He is the founder and CEO of Blitz Innovation. He has built several brands such as Brian's Toys, a collectible toy business, to several Amazon FBA brands like Strictly Bricks and Clever Creations. His latest adventure is Rovux, a modern athleisure footwear brand which can be found at rovuxfootwear.com. On the podcast, Brian will talk with other entrepreneurs and social media influencers about their entrepreneurial journey, from what it takes to start and run a business to how they may continue to grow their brands and where they see themselves in their businesses in the future. And now, here's your host, Brian Semling.
Welcome to the Fit for Success podcast. This is Brian Semling. Today our guest is Courtney North, the founder of Don't Fit In. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So, Courtney, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and how it got started.
Yeah. My name is Courtney North. I am the co-founder of Don't Fit In, which is a community and a brand that my 6-year-old son and I started to spread a message of self-love. Our mission is to inspire others to continually grow and embrace their true, authentic self. Ultimately creating a world where everyone belongs. So we just felt strongly about sharing our message and started that in 2020, early 2020, and just kind of launched it from there.
Super neat. So I just got to ask, as you said, early 2020, was that before or after COVID?
After.
Okay. Did that contribute because you were at home and it made it easier, or not? Maybe something that you were going to do anyways and it just sort of didn't affect it?
Yeah, I have always wanted to write a children's book, and that's kind of where this all stemmed from. But when I was home and with my son more, we talked about it a lot more. And so it just kind of became more exciting. And I was writing down more than I was prior and just kind of taking notes and slowly started to write everything in that time. So I kind of had a lot more time to do it because I had a full-time job. So it wasn't easy to put time into that earlier, but.
So you already had wanted to do it, but it kind of provided you maybe a time and escape to focus on it a little bit more. So that's good and productive. I've talked to a few other people who kind of shifted gears, or maybe they got to focus on something that was longer term and they just hadn't been able to get to it in their normal day to day. So it's good to kind of make some lemonade out of lemons out of that. So that's fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about the role that your son played in starting your business.
So I am really passionate about just teaching him to be himself. He is just funny and quirky, and I love him, everything about him. I'm biased though, but I just really kind of was trying to instill that in him from a young age and just try to teach him to be comfortable with who he is. And actually, we talk about it all the time. And before he goes to bed, we always have conversations about that specifically, like just him being confident in himself and learning to love himself and those types of things. So it kind of was interesting. It came full circle when he basically came to me and was like, why don't we share this with other kids? And I was like, oh, I didn't really think of that. And in that time frame, we were actually in the middle of writing my children's book that is now launched. And I was like, we should share this message. Like, this is an important message.
So he gave you the idea to do that, basically. It was kind of like two ideas that got the book, and this idea kind of got connected by him, basically.
Yeah. He's the genius behind it all.
So take a minute to clarify for us. Tell us the name of your book and about your book a little bit, and then how that relates to your current overall business.
Yeah. So it's called Beans and Peace Find Their Happy Place. It's actually a story about an alien and his pet Peace that live on Saturn. It's kind of like a fun adventure of him traveling the solar system to find out where he belongs, ultimately finding out that he was where he was supposed to be all along. It's a message of self-love, self-acceptance, and just accepting others' differences as well. And that's kind of the meaning behind our brand in general. So we sell clothing and just I guess, created a community behind all of this and just share that message with everyone with the book and the clothing.
Are there more books coming, or is there is it going to be part of a series perhaps, or not sure at this point, or not? Maybe it is a standalone and there won't be more.
I hope so. I do actually have another book written right now. It's not like fully done, but I would love to continue this on. The characters in this book I love, and I think it would be fun to just have more stories with the same characters, basically.
Cool. So, shifting gears, what are some of the challenges that you face as an entrepreneur?
I think first and foremost, just learning all of the things. I think you don't realize how much you actually have to do and have to put into it at the beginning, especially. I mean, you're doing all of the online stuff, you're doing a creative piece and everything in between. So I think just realistically, the amount that you actually have to put into it as an entrepreneur, and you play a big role in that, especially starting off on your own. You don't have, a ton of help unless you hire out, of course, but by yourself, it's a lot. And I think also for me, I'm an introvert. So putting myself out there and building a community and building connections, supporting other brands, and like hosting events and all of those types of things play a big part into building your brand and your business. And that was hard for me because I don't typically put myself out there. And so I had to push myself out of that comfort zone in order to excel further in this.
Yes, you have to market your own brand, and to a large extent, be the face of your own brand, and that you weren't particularly comfortable with, just by that isn't your second nature, isn't to do that. You had to kind of step out of your comfort zone, it sounds like.
Mhm. Yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable for me, and still kind of is. Like there are certain things that I get super nervous about, and I'm not great at reaching out to people and starting conversations just in a public setting. So I really have to kind of push myself to do that, or even just to hop on Instagram and show my face. I'm not great at, and I need to be better at. But yeah, it's been uncomfortable, but it's been good. I've learned a lot from doing that. So
Yeah, you got out of your comfort zone and made it work basically. And I think there's so many different aspects of, when you start a business, that there's going to be a number of them that you're naturally good at, and that's kind of why you're passionate and you're starting in the first place. But
mhm.
nobody is good at every aspect of a business, and so you're going to almost everybody's going to have to stretch in different areas basically to make it work. Particularly if you aren't able to hire out other people, from the beginning, which is pretty common, right? Because it costs
Yes.
money, and you maybe don't even have the contacts of who is going to help you in some of those areas of need right away. So, what were
Mhm.
some of the mistakes that you've made as an entrepreneur?
I think at first, probably social media. I wasn't great at being consistent um, and posting often and engaging with others. Like I wasn't very educated in that, and learned very quickly that I needed to kind of step on the gas a little bit more and put myself out there. And also, I think I guess like this, knowing the balance between being salesy, and also just giving people something, or building that connection in a way of not asking for someone to buy something from you, kind of. I guess I would say I would just post to be like, here's our new product, or here's my new book, but it wasn't ever engaging with a lot of people, and is learning to really build that community, and the people that do support you and love you, giving them more and not trying to reach out for all the other people that aren't following you. Kind of. So I think social media in general it's been a big learning curve, but I
Yeah.
feel like I'm getting the hang of it now.
Yeah, I think I heard what you say was, well, you're certainly always trying to grow. All businesses are, and you're trying to grow your audience, grow your readership, et cetera, grow your revenue. That you also have to stay focused, maybe more so than on growth, is staying engaged and having the pulse of your current audience, and
Correct.
not taking that for granted as you also are trying to grow, basically, kind of keeping that front and center. And hopefully the growth to some extent takes care of itself as you engage and take care of the ones who are right in front of you, basically.
hmm Yes, exactly. Like posting or providing content with your current audience as and giving to them, serving them and their needs versus trying to reach out to the people that aren't actually following you is a big thing. I just think
Yeah.
putting more into them is huge.
Well, I think that you're onto something there, which is if you can focus more on that bond and that connection that you naturally already have, you're going to get more, you're going to grow that way. Instead of chasing after growth, just focusing on kind of that authenticity and the relationship that you have there's a reason why those people are interested in you, basically. And if you're focusing on where they're at, then naturally more people are going to find you who are in that similar place, basically, where they're seeing the same value in your work and your message. So shifting gears, what companies or entrepreneurs inspire you?
Um, I am really into the Skinny Confidential. Do you know them?
Skinny Confidential. I don't think so.
Yeah, Lauren Bostic, she has a podcast and she has kind of created her own product, but she just did unapologetically herself. And I absolutely love their podcast. So I think she's probably a big one that really inspires me and teaches me a lot.
Good. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about owning a business?
I think that it's all, I think people think that it's fun and mostly fun and just entertainment, or like, especially if you're doing it on the side, if you work full time, it's just kind of like a hobby or something. And I think really you put so much time and effort and it's like your baby and you're taking care of it and helping it grow. And I don't think people recognize that it takes a lot of work to even get noticed by people and to start building that following and community and um, just really how much you put into it day to day, I
How
think.
much work goes in behind the scenes is kind of maybe unknown or unappreciated, basically, because so much of it isn't in the public spotlight or a specific product. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
Um, how do you incorporate living a healthy lifestyle and fitness into your life?
That is huge for me. I think that not only I don't not only do that for myself, I do that for my son and be a good example to him. I'm a big believer in um, doing, not saying. So I don't want to be the person to tell my son to do this to take care of himself or teach him about all these self-care things, but I'm not actually acting on them and doing them myself. So I think being genuine about what you're teaching your kids is important and being a good example. So I've done that from the beginning of I guess before I had him, but afterwards it was even more so taking time to take care of myself. And now I'm to the point where I can't not work out every day and take care of myself. I have a lot of stress and anxiety, and that's one of the things that really relieves that. So it's a huge part of my day. And taking time for yourself is really important. So I've always just made that a priority. It's been in the calendar. It doesn't, nothing kind of overtakes that. And I've just learned having a child it makes that hard. And having a business makes that hard. But I think just making sure you're making time every single day for you is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's a wise choice in terms of working out, health, fitness, exercise, because if you sacrifice there, kind of everything else is probably not going to be in its best shape eventually, right? Like you might be able to cut corners for a little while, but not forever. Now, does your son work out with you at all, or you do your workouts kind of as a example, and he just he goes out and plays like other kids, or is there any connection there that like you said, you try to be a good role model for him in that regards?
We actually worked out a lot together during the pandemic when we were home more. That was kind of when he started doing it more, and he loves it. Right now, he's very social, very into his friends. So I don't think he's fully paying attention to everything that I'm doing at this point. But he plays hockey, football, and basketball. So he's very athletic and in sport, and he knows that that is just an important thing to do, to be active. And I think he's known from a young age just because I always have worked out and made it a priority.
Rovox, where fashion meets fitness.
I'll share a little bit of my background with my daughter. Sonia's 14 and Eric is 11.
Okay.
And so I ran cross country and track in junior high and high school back in the 90s. And I've always stayed, I think like you, I mean, kind of kept it as like a deal. I've always had a fitness routine, kind of stayed in shape basically. But it wasn't really a passion. It was in high school, and then it was for kind of the next 20 years. I was just staying in, just kind of doing elliptical and push-ups, sit-ups, different types of exercises to keep healthy. But about 3.5 years ago, Eric, Sony, and I started running together. And that was naturally what I did, like I said, back in high school. And it kind of started as like a walk jog organically. It wasn't even really planned. I had a tie and a collared shirt on and some not running shoes basically, and so we're out walking, and one day it just kind of happened organically, and we started each day, like kind of, or maybe every other day, walk jogging turned into running eventually. And we did that we'd run 3-4 days a week. And then my daughter got into 7th grade the next year, and she took cross country running and has done very well with it. And my son has done it as well. And now we're at the point, kind of fast forward 3 years, where they're doing, it's their big thing basically, particularly as far as sports go. And so Sonia was just won the section meet. Her team went to state. Eric ran with the Lutheran School League and won the national meet actually for 6th grade and under in that. And he's like, Eric, you can't even stop basically. Like he just wants to run like every day, and he wants to do like hard workouts every day. And I'm like, dude, we gotta at least for me, I gotta, the prescription is generally like do a recovery. You gotta have like an easy day, and then you do a hard day, and you can only do like a couple hard workouts a week. And he always wants to go further and harder. And like for the most part, it's just worked for him. Like he just keeps getting better, but eventually you do need some rest, and I definitely need some rest, or I can't keep going. As an adult, you're sore for a couple of days after a hard workout. But yeah, so I just thought I would share that example. But that's just where I kind of got back into running, and we just kind of do it together. I coach their middle school, high school teams basically. So something that we do together every day, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's
So
good.
I think it's
Yeah.
definitely important to like keep active, and also like you're saying to be not only for like you and your son to be active, right? And if you're active, it kind of is one of those things where like once I started doing it, it was almost like, at least for me, it was kind of second nature that they kind of wanted to do it with me. Maybe not every day at first. Like at first, it was really hard.
Yes.
First couple weeks of running is not a natural experience for anybody, basically. But once you get through the first couple weeks, it's like, oh, this is, I won't say easy, but it gets easier and it gets fun, and now you can challenge yourself and you get better. So, all
Mhm.
right, well, good deal. So just kind of shifting gears back to you. So where do you see yourself in 10 years, professionally and personally? So you've just gotten started here in the last year with your business. So if you look out, that's a long ways relative to how long ago you started. But where might
Mhm.
you see yourself in 10 years?
I hope to have written a couple more books by then. writing this children's book has been such an amazing experience. It is my first one. So there was a lot to learn in all of that, launching a book. So now that I have that under my belt, I definitely am more motivated to write more and hopefully make that part of my future. Also, this company really, I love just spreading this message. And one of the biggest things that I have done within creating this company is highlight children who are different. So, for example, one of the children what had dwarfism, and he designed his own shirt, and we launched it, and it was just kind of more to spread the message of educate others on dwarfism and allow people to learn more about other differences. And we also did one on autism, and he designed his own shirt as well. And for me, that was such an amazing experience because I learned a lot as well. And just to see these kids create their own creation and share it with the world was really cool. And so that's one of the things I hope to do more of. I think a lot of people, especially children, you're just around your friends and that's who you know. So if there are people that have autism or dwarfism or any other thing, sometimes people aren't exposed to that. And so it is different to them later on. So I think it's just been super cool to just spread that with the world and educate others. And so I really hope to do a lot more of that. I have absolutely loved working with those kids, and it's just been really neat. So I hope to do a lot more of that and just hopefully have my company in a comfortable space by then and really just continue to spread this message.
Yeah, it's a really it's great that what you're doing directly impacts these different kids, and not just kids, right? I mean, people, parents, adults, everybody too. So that's a great reinforcement. So as you build your business and your brand, you're directly helping helping kids at the same time, basically. So that's really neat, and it's got to make it very rewarding, basically, to kind of and it sounds like to some extent to see the results with some of these firsthand, like you said, the couple of kids that you described, where they sound like they really appreciated the working together, the experience that you described. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really given them an opportunity to shine. And I've interviewed both of them and shared the interview on my social media. So you just can learn more about who they are and everything. So I think it's just been really cool for them to be spotlighted and just for a chance to shine.
yeah. In what ways do you find it hard to balance between owning a business and your personal life? I mean, we talked about how much work it is, and that makes sense certainly to anybody who has started and owns a business. And like you said, maybe not everybody realizes that, but yeah. So what were what were some of those difficulties, I guess, or how do you manage that? Because it's kind of an ongoing challenge, I think.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think sometimes I feel comfortable and I feel balanced, and sometimes I absolutely do not. And that still changes day to day. So it is the learning curve. For me, social media is a big one. I'm not big on social media. And I guess having to keep up with an algorithm to where people are able to see you and you don't just disappear has been difficult for me, because there are times where I really like to get off of social media and not be on it. I need a break from my mental well-being. And so that's not always easy to do when you have a business. But I think just even a day or two in between, I have been able to do that every so often. Maybe like 1 or 2 days in a month, I just like block off and say, absolutely no social media, just to be able to take a real break from it.
Yeah.
absolutely like to take longer breaks from it if I could. But running a business, I feel like you really have to keep up with that algorithm and make sure you're kind of just staying relevant and people are seeing your content. So that probably is the biggest struggle for me, because I just find it a lot easier in my life to be able to take breaks and be able to focus on my home life and my family and myself and those types of things without being distracted by a phone. And when you run a business, I think your phone is always in your hand
Yeah.
because you're running all sorts of things and you're designing and you're creating content and everything else. So I think just making time and putting it on the calendar for me is huge. Just saying I'm blocking this day off and I'm not getting on my phone or whatever it might be, just to be able to kind of regroup and feel good the next day and re-energized for it. So yeah, I'm definitely not great at it, and it does have a lot of ups and downs, but I have been able to figure out a little bit how to balance it more and more. So.
Yeah, and to keep the business going and also to keep yourself um, rested to the point that you're able to be recharged and plow forward, basically. So,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
do you have any questions for me? Anything that you would like any input or advice on? Now, I've got very different business experience on the one hand, but quite a bit of consumer product online sales experience. So, if there's anything that you want to ask me, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your experience and your background. I would love to know more as how you put yourself out there and got recognized by and was able to make the sales that you have made.
Well, is your question to the very beginning? How did I start to put myself out there? Would that be your
Yeah.
question?
Yes. Sorry.
So let's go back to when I started my first business, Brian's Toys, buying and selling collectible Star Wars toys, back when I was a junior in high school. So it was a
Okay.
hobby. Collecting toys was a hobby of mine. And it occurred to me while I was in my junior year of high school that I was working at a grocery store, and nothing wrong with that. But I thought maybe I could buy and sell these toys that I collected, but as a business, and maybe I could make more money. So I tried that, and as far as putting myself out there, what did I do? I took ads out in it would be kind of the online equivalent of like eBay, but at the time was trade publications, magazines for collecting toys, as well as local advertisements and so forth. And so what I did is I would advertise to buy from individuals toy collections from. So this was in the mid-90s, and I would have been buying toys that would have been from the 70s and early 80s, Star Wars toys primarily.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would advertise. People would call, they'd fax, they'd email. I would go to trade shows. I live in Wisconsin, and so Chicago, Illinois would be kind of the closest, or at least was a close large city where there were large conventions or get-togethers, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
in the Chicago area. Several, maybe to 5 to 10 times a year. So I would go to these different toy shows or trade shows and advertise. And so I would say that. So that was it. So I advertised in print, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to and people would call, fax, email, and I would go to trade shows. So I basically went from being basically a private collector that not too many people would have known in terms of the toy collecting community, to somebody who was putting themselves out there by spending some money, limited budget obviously at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
on ads and paying for booths at shows, and buying inventory, selling lots of products, and then just by putting myself out there, getting to know initially hundreds of people, and then I don't know, after a year or two, thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of just getting into the game, basically. So advertising and and trade shows would be kind of the direct answer, I suppose. So
Yeah. That's interesting you say that because I didn't initially do events, but I started to do a little bit more recently, and I wish that I would have done that from the get-go. Obviously, they cost money to get into or host or whatever it might be, but I feel like that is the biggest thing in getting your name out there and also building connections. Because I feel like if someone knows you more and knows what you're about and they're more supportive of you, like they want to support who
If
you are.
if
So
they've
I
met
think
you,
that's
is that what you're
huge.
saying? Like were you saying at like a trade show?
Yeah, trade shows and just like little events even.
Yeah. But
I've
something in
done.
person, basically, like an in-person
Yes.
event. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that over the years, the vast majority of people I've done business with, I have never met in person. But I think that there's no question that, you get that, whatever the right word is, but there's an extra effect basically when you get to meet somebody, shake their hand, look them in the eye, like just you get to you feel a little bit more like you've gotten to know them, and maybe when you tell other people about what you did or who you met, it's maybe a little bit more impactful when you, instead of just following a blog or an email or or what have you, like, hey, this I met this person today, and
Hmm.
like it was face to face. So I think there is an added dimension, or it's just more significant in general for people, right? So it's more of
Yeah.
a personal, and it's I found it also to be, like, on the one hand, very engaging and lots of fun, but also very demanding. Like the days when I was at these trade shows, particularly back in the 90s, they were like, you travel to get there, and then it's like full, like, 12 to 18 hour days basically. So you're like, both like totally on when you're like during the convention and talking to people nonstop, and then you have no downtime and you're like super tired. You sleep really well, you're exhausted, and then you get up the next morning at 5:30 or 6, and you're like, do it all over again basically. So it's both like, oh my goodness, that's going to be a lot of work, and then when you're there, it's like, wow, this is, it's like a high, like you just, kind of, it's like a tremendous amount of work and effort, and also I think a reward at the same time, and you get, you get a lot out of it. You certainly can. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
my parents helped me at those initial trade shows. So like my dad would do the driving down to Chicago, would be like a 5 hour drive. Sometimes, so it would be like a team effort basically. But
Hmm.
it was definitely a lot of work, but
Yeah.
super exciting. So all right. Was there anything that I haven't asked you that you wished I had asked today?
I don't think so. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
So let's just take a minute to have you tell everyone how to find you. Where can people get more information on your business?
Yeah. So I have my website, which is www.don'tfitin.co. And then my Instagram and Facebook are at don'tfitin.co. And Beans and Peace Find Their Happy Place is available on Amazon to purchase. So that's pretty much it.
Well, great. So Courtney, it's been so nice to have you today, and I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you so much.
You're welcome. I'm Brian Semling, and this is the Fit for Success podcast.